Hey everyone, if you're tired of me, it's okay. I'll be working through the rest of the week, and I really only have time to do these on the weekend. And if I offend or bother anyone, um, I assure you that it means that we are not ready for the rigors of leadership. Okay, I seriously mean the best and just want have good intentions. So I want to talk today about relevance, okay? I feel like we overuse words at times like transparency and relevance in the Army. And through the test of time, it becomes the new, shiny word. And then the next thing you know, everybody's saying it. And before you know it, we're saying it out of defense, right? So recently the SMA said something about getting back to basics. I bet you nobody called him out for being irrelevant, right? Nobody would, because probably the position and the power, right? So we need to be mindful with that. And then the word transparency, I've heard civilians even get tired of the word being said by their commanders because everybody wants substance, right? Everyone wants words to matter. We want to see substance. We want to see results, okay? So while I may be irrelevant to a specific topic of discussion at that point in time, it doesn't mean that I'm irrelevant completely to the Army. If I say something like the word discipline and it bothers people, that doesn't mean that it's irrelevant to the cause. All right, so that carries me to the next thing. So we talk about corrections, and we talk about when we pass by something that's wrong, we've now enforced or created a new standard as E9s, right? Well, then you get arguments going on, well, on-spot corrections and somebody wearing the wrong socks or whatever, for instance, that's not, our job. E9s need to just overlook that. Well, so a few years ago, I was retiring, and a sergeant first class said to me, Sergeant Major, I thought you were going to be a real prick because on day one, we were out of the PT field and you were making corrections, having people tuck their t-shirts in and stuff, okay? And then she went on to say, but I was dead wrong, okay? It went a lot better than I thought and everything. And so offline later, I said, Sergeant First Class, whose job are those uniform corrections really supposed to be? And she thought about it for a little bit, and I said, how about the first line leader, right? The junior leadership, okay? And I think that's something we've kind of lost in the sauce, so to speak. And I'm definitely not talking like an old codger perspective or anything. I really try to keep things real. I didn't walk to school uphill in snow both ways, I assure you that. The fish that I caught were very small over the years that I tried fishing. But there's something there. And I do believe that when we pass it by, we are invoking a new standard. So I went on. Brigade commander was at my doorstep one day asking because I got on the case of one of her soldiers, one of the brigade headquarters soldiers. They were traveling. They were walking alone. And it was in a war zone training area, okay, designated. And so I said, well, ma'am, did they tell you that the soldier was without a battle buddy? Oh, no, Sergeant Major, they didn't tell me that. So I began questioning myself, right, which we shouldn't do. We really shouldn't doubt ourselves. Because when I entered the arena of being an E9, I thought, man, there's nothing the Army can throw at me that I'm not ready for, because I was a drill sergeant. And as a drill sergeant, you learn pretty well your left and right limits, okay, of avoiding IG complaints and getting in trouble and things like that, right? Like real severe stuff. And so, trust me, it helps. But I'm not full of myself, so look to do better. I reached out to a private I had in the IET environment. I said, hey, was I ever too much, a prick, a butthole, whatever? And he's like, you? That was literally his response. Okay, he's out of the Army now. He was one of the 18 X-ray guys that I had. Fortunate to have as a drill sergeant. And he said, no way, man, no way. So Go out there and be all you can be yourself. And let's get away from holding on to these crutch words like relevance and transparency and making excuses. And I'll tell you what, if the direct leaders can't do their job, the strategic leaders aren't going to be able to do theirs. Bottom line, with this whole direct leadership versus strategic leadership and all this strategery talk when you become an E9, if your direct leaders are struggling, you're going to struggle too. Have a good day.